Radio. Good morning. We are Derek and Bridget.
I've been so excited about Matt Hammitt being on the show. I've been pumped about this from about 5 a.m. this morning. The hubs was like, get out of the house. You're wearing me out. Matt, welcome to the show. So thankful for who you are and the fact that you just take time to come and hang out with us.
Thank you so much for having me. I just love driving up here to be with you guys. I've been looking forward to it. We've been trying to work it out for a while. My schedule's been crazy, but I'm so glad it worked out today, and I'm grateful.
Mm-hmm.
Well, our paths crossed, maybe 3 months ago in Nashville at this thing called Redbird Commons, a Nashville Christian songwriters round type of thing. And you shared a song with us called Church Hurt, and we've just started playing it just literally a few days ago on Friday. And just share with us a little bit about what led you to write a song about church hurt.
Yeah, it's something that I've just seen around me constantly. And I think not only in my personal life with friends that I've known, and even just recently with a church, just about a year and a half ago, with the transition with a pastor that was really hard. And I saw a lot of the pain in that, and then just seeing it around me from other people, even in churches I wasn't involved with, and meeting so many people that I met who just said, hey, I don't have a church home. I want to go back to church, but I've been hurt. And as some of these even documentaries were coming out, the Hillsong and, the Duggars one just came out, and, but these things have been happening. There was one called the Rise and Fall of Mars Hill. It was a podcast.
Yes.
And I think, so what was happening all around me, I'm seeing, okay, this stuff's getting torn apart, and it has to do obviously with so much. There's so many pieces to it that are so complicated, and it's a lot of processing to figure out. Obviously, every story is even different. But I was just, at the end of it all, I felt like we were just staring at all this rubble and just going, okay, well, that's horrible.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I couldn't see in the cultural narrative where people were going, okay, well, how do we heal, restore, rebuild God's kingdom? Because God's kingdom is the greatest force of good in the world, doing more good for the world. I mean, I was just in El Salvador this past week, and I saw it with my own eyes, just what the church and what Christian organizations, what God's people are doing for those who are hurting. And so if we just want the church to be strong and do more kingdom work, then how do we address the hard issues that are tearing us apart? And I started reflecting on being a kid. And when I was young is when I think felt the sting of church hurt. My family went to a church for the first 8 years of my life. It was the only church. I was basically born into that church. My parents went there even before I was born. They served on the board. They, volunteered, did missions. We were there 5 times a week at this church. You know how it is. Every time the doors are open. And I remember the day that we got in the car, my parents turned and looked at me. And they just said, hey, with tears in their eyes, we want you guys to know that we're not going to be able to come back to the church. And it was a really hurtful situation for my parents. It was someone in leadership at that time trying to protect themselves by asking people who might expose them to leave. And, but even in the middle of all that, I remember my parents teaching me that our faith is in God and not people. And I never heard my parents say anything bad about anyone for the sake of gossip. Yet they told the truth. And they told us we still love our pastor. That lesson for me was crazy. And then I actually watched them. We got involved in another church and went through 2 more splits in that church. But my parents remained faithful to serving the people, serving the Lord there. And they're still there 35 years later, and still serving that church.
Yeah.
And they've been such a model to me of what it looks like to experience pain, but to remain faithful and serving in the little ways and take it one step at a time to rebuild. And so I just thought, man, how can I pour this into a song? And that's where Church Hurt came from. And it wasn't just I sat down to write it. It was it was birthed in me and just dumped out, Yeah,
I remember when we first heard it that night, you were like, I don't know if I should play this song or not, and we're all like, "You've let the cat out of the bag. You gotta play it now."
Yeah. The interesting thing was that night when I played that song, it was the first time I ever played it out live. I didn't even really know if it was done yet. I thought it was, and when you guys came up to me and said, "You've got to record that song," I'm not lying. That was what gave me the inspiration to say, this has got to come out and people need to hear this.
Matt Hammitt. This is called Church Hurt on Your Christian Family Radio.